And
You're now watching Two Old Farts Making Noises. Welcome to Canadian Art Today with your host, Paul Constable.
we're back. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
It sounds more official than ever. The more I hear it, the more official it sounds.
I know, and we got maple leaves and
Yeah.
not candy canes or whatever the heck you had before.
Yeah.
So it's half a year or something. So
Yeah.
well, we're back after a few technical and logistical problems last week, so I apologise to all the fans who didn't get the very latest. But that's all been
we'll get
rescheduled and re-happening. That's all the stars of the show are coming back. So
Well, it's good to starve a population just a little, starve the audience just a little bit, because they'll be waiting in anticipation for today's show. So
yeah,
that'll be.
Yeah.
We always promise them a great show, and we're definitely gonna have a good one today again.
oh, we always have a good show. We always a pleasure to have everybody.
I brought my own hamburgers this week, so I'm fine.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah.
So who's our guest today, Paul?
We have really prolific photographer. I've known him and worked with him for years commercially, and then he's changed a little bit. So what we're going to talk about today a little bit is, where is the real fine art in photography? I mean, photography, is a fine form that's been kind of eroding for decades. I mean, we've undergone transformations from pinhole cameras, flash, brownies to Instamatic, Polaroids, 3mm digital, and now we got phones. I mean, my goodness, everyone thinks they're a photographer, and then technology is making it possible for them to be a photographer as well. I mean, I once read it's the 6 inches behind the camera that takes the picture, but yeah, the problem is technology is making it possible for everybody to look better and better and better. So it puts pressure on photographers as well. Do I actually need to hire a photographer? Why would I need one of these people? Today's guest is a respected photographer and videographer from Western Canada. He's well known for his hair fashion images that have been published internationally, works with models. He shot material for bands such as the Northern Pikes, the Sheepdogs, and Sam Roberts. His clients are quite diverse from everything from ad agencies, tourism and parks departments, governments. People have clamored after him for years to make them look good. And I'd like to really welcome you to meet Kevin Hogarth from Saskatoon.
Yeah. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Kevin. Wow, what an intro. Well,
I know.
It got a little long, but it's worth it.
Especially because he's got 6 inches behind the camera. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
That's an old adage, and I think whether you use a Polaroid camera or Instamatic camera, it's the design and how you use that, and I guess it comes with the knowledge. Correct, Kevin? I don't know. Am I right?
Well, I think you're right. I think it's more as the users compared to the tool that you really use, and I guess I have a few examples of that today.
Yeah, no, you do, and we're gonna go through a bunch of that. I guess part of this is what kind of camera do you use? Like let's just start there. I mean, the digital world is here. Are you doing digital as well?
Oh, certainly, yes. One has to shoot digital to survive. I'm on a full line of Canon digital cameras, so that goes straight across, and lenses. It's really nice to be able to shoot and have a product that you can get out the door the same day as compared to the old film days. But in a large part, what I'm doing now, and I really believe the art of photography will certainly be like vinyl. It's, going back to film as compared to just shooting digital. And it's one thing, as I find with digital and Photoshop, you can just about do anything and make everything look good. And it's somewhat over processed. Whereas if you get a negative and you shoot a negative and wait for it to come back, it's always an excitement to see the product. And from there, I do a little bit of Photoshop and I digitize the images. I work on my darkroom in the light these days, which is quite nice.
So you're still shooting a fair amount, like the plein air stuff outside, right? You're gathering your information and working with that.
Yes.
So basically, you're working on the land, like you're looking mostly prairie. Is that mostly what you're working with? Is prairie types of imagery?
Well, yes, I am located on the prairies, so I shoot the prairies. But certainly, if I do go on holidays or anything, it's kind of nice to put the commercial side of photography and go out and shoot what I'd like to do rather than what people would like me to shoot. And I go and travel Montreal or across Canada, United States, or into Europe. I certainly enjoy just taking a camera and shooting images.
Yeah. So you can become the tourist with the camera a little bit, kind of walking around, finding those special spots. We'll go through some of those images, and they're quite recognizable for some people. They'll know some of those names and things that are quite, I guess, popular. So you still do commercial work?
I certainly do. Yeah, I'm still a full-time commercial photographer. So usually it slows up a bit in the wintertime, and that's where I, kind of get out and get into, supporting more of my creative, artistic images and work on those.
So how do you find the time? So say you're out on a commercial shoot, do you allocate time while you're on that shoot for if you see things for your own fine art aspects of it?
Well, actually, if I'm on the job, I'm working on the job a lot of times. Unfortunately, if you're traveling down the road to get to a destination, it's really hard to stop. I certainly, when I'm hired, I focus on taking care of who I'm working for and what I'm doing from there. But yes, if I have time off and I'm in unique locations, I certainly, don't mind taking extra shots. Yes.
Take some time off, maybe even to do it on the way back. But like you said, they usually want their product as quickly as well, it's still wet. They want to still see it, right?
That's right.
Yeah, no, it's fresh and in the vogue is what's going on. So I guess you're working in your fine art area. Are you working like black and white film as well as color film as well?
Yes, I certainly, first of all, I just love black and white. It's more the composition design. From there, if I do work into colors, I like to have vivid colors and really show off or have a reason to be selecting color film over black and white. But in my style, it's grain. I like grit and I like grain and I like contrast. So it's a lot to do with all of those combined together.
So what kind of substrates do you print on? Like, what kind of substrates do you kind of print on to get those effects that you want?
Well, certainly it's I'm back into being a photographic technician, and I was trained that way. So I really enjoyed working in the darkroom, going into fiber-based prints, which would be a archival form of printing. From the archival printing, now you have giclée prints. So with the giclée prints, you have archival inks. So that way, it kind of takes over being in the darkroom. It does take a lot to, work that way, and a lot of square footage. And of course, standing over chemicals all day long. Maybe that's how I lost all my hair. I'm not sure. But now I certainly like to be in the daylight. I usually outsource my printing because, it does take a lot of money to get large format printers. And it's not just the printers, but it's also technically issues go wrong and the inks and the papers. So, from there, I focus really in a large part is shooting, capturing the images and then sending them out. So, with printing, I have really tried it all. I still like the style of the fiber-based prints, just the luster of the old black and white papers, or say the gloss if need be. And I've also gone into stretch canvases because it's always an issue. I love printing big pictures. So if I can get up to 4 foot by 5 foot, If you start doing that, then you have to get glass and you have to build the frame. Everything does get really, really heavy. So the stretch canvases work quite a bit better that way. But my heart is really going back into archival giclée prints, more on kind of a fiber-based style paper.
Right.
And that's my new direction going in.
Maybe we could bring up some of that first image we've got available there. There we go. You can maybe kind of explain some of what's going on with this a little bit.
Well, it's kind of, this is a grandfather's clock, but it's actually my grandfather's father's clock. So it really goes back into history. And back in the day, this is a little bit more into the kind of starting point of getting into you know, some of my print work. I did work with this AGFA film, and it's AGFA Scala film, which is a black and white transparency film. It's just such a beautiful film that you can work at 200 ISO, which is the speed of the film, or you can push it with extra development to 1600 ISO, which then you create more of a grit and a grain.
Yeah.
So, and with this image, I also used a swing tilt lens, which means that your film plane is here and your lens is here, and you could move the lens back or forth, up or down. So that gives that shallow depth of field in the foreground and the background, and it just works kind of nice in just the time of the clock head.
Yeah, it has a really nice old world edge about it. I like, you know, it says timepiece without being just a picture of a clock, right? It's bleeding the edges, and it has a really nice personal feel about it. I guess it was nice to hear the background is that it was actually in your family, this watch as well.
Yeah.
So you're doing some tabletop stuff as well. So in the studio, and so was this one shot digitally to start with, or on film?
No, this is shot on film with that AGFA Scala film. Most of the images here, I don't think I have one digital image in this collection that I've sent you. Yeah. There again, like I said, you know, it's going from digital music back into vinyl records. So, you know, I think that a lot of people, I'm finding the younger people are really getting reintroduced to shooting film, and that's all I can push. Get film, shoot film, use the magic of what captures inside the camera and the excitement to see the product after a bit of time.
Yeah. No, it's I remember those exciting days of double exposures and doing stuff with a 35 millimeter. And that mostly happened after my film had skipped, and I had ended up shooting two images, one over top of the other. The one in the sprockets, it had shifted, and it came out, and it was kind of I can't remember what the shot was specifically, but you're actually shooting one shot over top of the other one. And I guess you plan some of that now, correct? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, by surprise again. Exactly what encountered to you is, you know, it was a bit of a mistake that was in the camera, but sometimes a mistake can turn out to be a creative, artistic direction that you can take.
Yeah, people understanding that you basically need to shoot an image and count as you're shooting, and then roll the film back. Am I correct? Is that how you do the double exposure in that day?
Back in that time, yes.
Yeah, and then you'd reshoot over top of that piece. Yeah, understanding that you've either overexposed or underexposed. Like you're understanding one might be a really dark background and one might be a light background that you're. So yeah, like I said, you really never know until the surprise happens in the darkroom. It's kind of a magic error in those days. I remember waiting for film to come back and it's blank. You found out that I did all this shooting and the sprockets never caught, and I never had any film go through the camera, and I shot a wedding. Oh my God.
Whoa.
Oh, I was a nightmare. It was.
Yes.
Yeah. Enough. I shot enough film that I was okay. I had to go back and redo a piece after I realized it hadn't gone through, and I went, oh my goodness. But the photographer's nightmare, right?
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Those are it's sort of like losing a digital file. I think we lost a whole couple of, on one of our shoots, we lost, well, your car was broken into. Wasn't that what it was?
Yes.
And the guy had stole all your film. That was from our photo shoot. I could not believe it.
Oh,
back up and redo it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you when you shoot film, you always learn from those experiences, and I have learned from that experience. We went out and shot for the full day and traveled to a location. I got back and I put my, cameras in my studio. It was the studio that was broken into. So all my stereo, all my records, all the film, all the camera, everything was taken. So to this day, when I do a commercial shoot, I say what I have in my hand, if it could be the film or the raw cards that I've shot, I remove them from the camera and I put them into a safe spot, because that is my insurance policy that would be paying for my deductible is that day's shooting. So you learn from what you do.
Yeah, that's called experience, and not the ones you like, but you do. It's a great advice, Kevin, for other photographers to know that how do you ensure yourself, to ensure, not with an E, to ensure that you're going to have a product at the end of the day, especially when you're being paid to produce a product for them.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So it's like, I think, like, here's a nice image. Can you what's going? Is this a roots that are being shot here? Is that what
Yes. I shot this in England, and I call it Celtic weave because I was inspired with the Celtic, designs in the area, and just to come across and see these lovely little leaves growing this ancient side of an oak tree. But there again, it's with the Agfa Scala film, which is a black and white transparency film, and just the contrast and the grit, it really works out. And I have a family of my wife and I and a daughter, so that's kind of how I feel when I look at this image.
Yeah, it's quite entangled, and they're quite entangled and holding on to each other. I like that.
Yeah.
So where do you excuse me? Where do you access? I mean, is Kodak still making film, or Agfa? They're making film for purchase? Is that
I have researched this. I wanted to go back into shooting this Agfa Scala film, which is a German-based film. You might be able to find it on eBay, but the problem with this film is there's no real place to get the film processed. It used to have a specialty lab that was down in Colorado somewhere, and because of the volume, they're no longer available. But I think that there's ways that we could, get back into the darkroom and use this black and white film and kind of do a reversal and create it. So that's something that I'm thinking of. And right now with this film that I'm working on and into the future of this talk is I've got kind of what I've been doing is playing with 20-year-old film and exposing that and everything. And that film, actually, I purchased a camera and I bought out a photographer that was a commercial photographer, and he sent boxes upon boxes of outdated film. And I've kept it in my cold room, and that's what I've been using. I still have enough to keep me busy for the next good 5 years.
Good for you. Again, planning your future. Nothing. I think that's what you have to do, is ensure that you've got a product that is consistent, even if it is out of date. At least you know what's going to happen when you. So you're going to have to develop this in a dark room in a canister and developer, and like the old way. Is that how that would normally be done?
For this film, yes, you'd either have to find a place online of where they might develop this Agfa Scala film and go from there. But right now, as we carry on, I have some images that I'm using this older kind of film process that I can explain a little bit later. This image is Talbot's bench. Now, Talbot is from England, and he was the first developer of creating a image on a negative. So William Fox Talbot. And I was at this museum, and I walk out the door, and here's this beautiful, lovely bench sitting there. And, it just, kind of captured. And a large part is composition, design, where the curly cues go. And, you're not a painter, so you have to create and kind of design your image through the viewfinder. And speaking from that, I am a full frame shooter. As you can always see in most of my images, you'll see a black edge around the image. That is the edge of the negative. I really compose in the camera and I work around and go from there.
Yeah, it's a very Art Nouveau bench. It's got that really nice curls in there. I don't know. Yeah, it looks somewhat comfortable. You're going to be leaning back in that chair. Nice. Smoke a cigar.
Yes, and I think there's quite a few people that have sat in that bench as well.
No, it's really nice. Like the legs on that thing are quite cool. Where they, you're not sitting down on a pointed leg, right? It's got this curved leg, almost like a sleigh. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
A cool image. No, it's a very. What I like about this image is it's in contrast to the building. Like the building is very structured stone, and then you have this soft yet material-based, probably metal and maybe combination wood. It's scrolled, right? It has that really soft, and the lines are very, like on the seat, are really directionally pushing you along that building as well. It's a nice attention holder. These things become beautiful pieces in homes and offices that they're kind of, they say things without being like a whole bunch of verbiage about them, right? People can read a lot into them. They're quite cool. And by the way, people can contact Kevin at any time for seeing him through his website. It's some amazing stuff to see through his system. Yeah.
You had mentioned about color before. This is still film, and again, this is I call this Rio Grande City, and it's a small city just on the Rio Grande in Texas, and it's a little courtyard. But back in the old days, when you shoot film, you had tungsten balanced film, or you would have daylight balanced film. And as a photographer, you always had to color correct your film. And it's not like a white balance on a digital camera these days. You can create this effect, and anybody that does shoot with a digital process is take your camera off of auto and put it onto manual, and you can select your white balance and shoot in tungsten. So it's all to do with degrees Kelvin, and this is daylight on tungsten film. So it goes right into the blue, which is the opposite of a tungsten light bulb that would be, say, in a kitchen, which is very yellow when you do a photograph with daylight film. So it's just kind of a working color. There again, we're working with color, but it's really monochromatic and working with that tungsten style film. And this is how I kind of achieved this.
Yeah. Compositionally, I love this piece. We've got the circle tops of the tables and that ultramarine pillars that you pulled out with using the film. Like you said, it's monochromatic, but it almost looks like a duotone of sorts that you could create. But understanding that people understand this wasn't done in Photoshop. This was done with film directly from the camera. So it's a skill that it's time honored, I guess I'll call it that. But I love, again, that design aspect of this, that soft, almost blown out look on the tabletop to, these little soft, pale seats on the chairs. And there's a nice palette in there. It's really, it's got a really nice, pleasing feel. The arches are picked up as well to the tables. So nicely designed piece. Yeah. And I do love the matrix on that, the black border. It really holds the page together. Yeah, it's a lovely piece. Yeah, I love that.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome. I throw compliments freely where I can. There, we know that. I'm in song already. I'm singing it.
Yeah. Again, back in travel, if you ever go to England, go to Liverpool, it really is amazing. Kind of getting a little over commercialized from the first time I was there, but Liverpool is just an amazing city. It's an old port city, and there's so many old buildings there. But this is what we're going into now. This is kind of a creative direction that I went, that this is 20-year-old color slide film. And what I kind of have learned to do is I get the color slide film and I cross process it, and I put it into color negative developer. And what it does is it really beefs up the contrast, and then it offsets the color balance. So you get more into blues and greens, and flesh tones wouldn't really be proper. But the beauty is now with Photoshop is you can have a little bit more control on your color balance. So I took this image with my family on a holiday, and I thought this would be great. I will shoot this 120, which is medium format film. It'll be, like your other medium format cameras. And from there, I shot this with a Bronica camera, and I found out that I'd never tour with my family again with a heavy bag of camera equipment again. I think that maybe I'll just go on my own and take it as a trip photography.
They didn't want to be your camel, did they?
I was pretty tired after the day, yes.
Yeah. So did you get your whiteout marker and write your name on Penny Lane on the sign? Because it looks like it's full of names and signatures on there.
Yes, it is quite amazing.
Yeah. So would you say that how long has that sign been there? Like, are we talking from the 60s or before that?
Oh, certainly. This is probably before, but when Penny Lane was there, this was originally there. So yes.
So did Paul sign this thing? Did you look on there to see if there's Paul or John signed that?
No, I don't think I see anybody's name in there. And also a little bit of a story on this image is my daughter was, I think, about 8 years old, and she was, kind of just getting into music. And we took a little bit of a bus tour. And as we were pulling in around Penny Lane, of course, the song Penny Lane comes on, and that's the first time she ever heard that song. And here she is right in this Penny Lane in Liverpool. So
that's a cool moment. Yeah. It's funny when you can, the connection of children understanding the music of parents and your generation. And sometimes it clicks and sometimes it doesn't click. And yeah, it's cool.
Sure. And again, another shot. This is the cross process of color slide film into color negative processor, and then of course I work in the computer to convert the image and everything. But this is a little strawberry field. This is John Lennon as a child would go and play in this park. It was a wide open field. So, and there again, really, these images, I wish we could just really zoom in and you can get the feel of the grain and the grit and how it really is. But, it's quite amazing with the colors, and you could see the greenish color. That would be the cross process where, it's not exactly true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough for us to actually bump up and go in and see it, but definitely I want people to go to your website, and definitely they can go in and see these images and pop them up and take a closer look at them. Yeah, I love the gate. That complementary issue of color, like trying to get the right value and hue of green against red. You can't just throw a bright red in there. This is a rich red, I guess a double-decker bus red. It has that nice, rich feeling. Yeah, and I love. Yeah, and that, like you said, that old world. It feels like Hansel and Gretel's house a little bit. So I kind of
yes.
there definitely is an old world aspect to it. It's a beautiful, beautiful image. So
yeah, but the children will not be eaten.
The children will not be eaten.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. And going through a gate and you're going into strawberry fields forever. There you go.
And that's right.
Yeah, we got another image coming up here shortly here. So there we go.
Sure. There again, it's 20-year-old film that is cross-processed, and I could just about really try to suggest, take a look at the edge of the full frame. That's the patina to me is what is the film? What are the surprises? And just the roughness of the film on the edge. Now, this here is taken one step more. I have a camera here, and this is the camera. It is a German Agfa camera. And what I noticed is in this camera, it's a 120 roll film. So you slide this over to see the marks of where your film is, and this is your viewfinder. So you can imagine that you have to point and shoot to take the pictures.
Right.
So if you take a look at the image, there's just a softness in which vignettes around the edge of the image. And I'm using this camera is just for the weakness of the optics, the softness of the optics. And it's quite something that it's got a sharpness in the center, but it's very soft on the edges. So that's what I'm working on, is shooting this old film in this old camera, and, you know, point and shoot and off you go. So you really have to understand how this camera works to really come out with an image, say, like this. Usually I like to compose my, you know, focus of the image in a bottom right or left corner. But here you have to really work into, you know, putting your image in the middle so that that would be sharp and everything else is soft.
Yeah, understanding what you're dealing with. Yeah. Do you work with a tripod as well, or are you handheld?
I would work both, but with this camera, I really kind of just got started shooting handheld and, you know, working around from there. But I think that I'd like to, you know, kind of shoot with a tripod and do a few other things of what I like to do, like my panoramic shots that I've kind of developed with this camera.
Yeah, you have about as much luggage to carry around as a plein air painter. They got to drag their paint box and stuff and stuff. I think the same thing with the photography. You have to bring, like, you go out on a shoot. How many cameras would you take with you on a shoot when you go doing your own fine art thing? Because you never really know what you're going to see.
Yeah. Well, actually, the beauty of this camera is you can fold it up and I can put it in my back pocket. So this is a really nice travel camera, but most of it's not really the cameras, but it's the lenses that, you know, you would carry along with your, you know, other camera packages. You know, it's always good to have a backup camera body when you do shoot.
Yeah, especially when it's 35 below and it freezes up on you.
Yes. So this is the first shot that I went out. This was a test with this camera and with this film. So, you know, like, I mean, you get that back and go, oh, hey, I really like this. You know, this works out good. There again, you know, my idea is to get these images and blow them up to be 4 foot by 5 foot, so that you can really, you know, see the softness on the edges of the image.
So have you got a plan for an exhibition somewhere or some of these large images?
This is something that I'm working on, as you know, right now. I'm kind of working on maybe trying to get some art grants to help with my printing, because of course they're probably cost easily $300 per image type thing to print up. So I am working on that. I do have a concept, maybe, you know, the next image might come up, that this is something that I'm kind of working on. It's really folk art, you know.
I even know where that little town is.
Yes, yes. And, you know, a true Saskatchewan image, again, a prairie image. And, you know, as I travel on our roads, there's this Rosetown towing person that has all of these old vintage trucks all around his town of Rosetown and uses as advertising. And I go, well, wouldn't that just make an interesting little project? So I've been out and I've got probably about 15 of these images shot, and he's got about 25 trucks out. And I'm working on shooting spring, summer, winter, and fall, so that, you know, you might be able to make a calendar or whatever. And, you know, to me, it's Saskatchewan. It's, you know, it's a prairie. And then again, full frame, you know, take a look at the edge of where the negative ends, and you can see the Fuji RDP. That's the film, just like the old Tri-X 35 millimeter film and everything. And very sharp in the middle, and then going soft on the edges.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, a lot of people, they fall in love with a lot of these trucks. They've been trying to restore a lot of them. But it's nice to see them vintage. They've got that patina on them, that they are the age they are, and they are what they are. And we just hope that they don't get vandalized or anything sitting out in the country like this. But it's great. I think it's a great piece of advertising that the guy has done. And you know, he's archived. He's kept these vehicles in, you know, in their. I think the back tire on this one is pretty much done, but it
isn't missing. And you said patina, and you know the patina on the truck and the rust on the truck. Yes, and I say the patina of the film, the edge of the film. If you really look at the original, the reddish color by the CAA, you can see in the setting sun in the background, and how the grit and the grain works. It's just about comparable. So it is, like you said, patina, and also the interest in the type of trucks that are out there.
Yeah. So this is a towing company. This is what this is.
It is a towing company.
Oh.
Now this brings us to my little mistake with this roll camera. Yeah. So, you know, you have to wind the film by hand. And so I shot an image where I double exposed an image one onto the other. And then I thought, well, this is really, really cool. So being a commercial photographer, I thought that a good addition to the images I'm working on is be able to have something like this, that you can imagine a inside double wide page of an inside of a magazine that you can put writing and print work over the wide open prairie. But what I'm going to do is certainly make very large panoramic shots of these images just out in the wide open prairie. So that's what I do, is I count how many winds I've got in the start of the camera, and I try just with a handheld and to balance the horizon onto the other shot and double expose and make a panoramic shot, all in the beauty of the film of the camera.
Yeah, I like it, the fact that you're not going to print at all of any text on this at all. It'd be lovely just to see this as a very large format, or a very large print. In an office somewhere, you know, somebody that loves vehicles, and you know, say he's a restorer or something of vehicles, and he just wants that feeling of, everybody's looking for that vehicle that they found, the magic, been in the barn forever, up on blocks, and nobody's driven it for 50 years, right? They're looking for the magic piece, and this is sort of, these are still exposed to the weather, but they're kind of cool places to go and look at these vehicles and see what's going on. Almost like a little tourism destination thing to kind of follow through. You got a little map or something. I think you did some kind of showing of where some of these things have been located.
Yes, I do have a map. And also for our fine European friends, this is like called wind chill. So you're out there in January and the wind's blowing, and it could easily be minus 40 degrees Celsius and the wind's blowing in your face, and you're out getting these images. But I've got this little kind of image here. This is just the shots of all the white dots this is Rosetown in the middle right here. And these white dots are winter images that I've shot. The red images are summertime, and the green pins are new destinations to go and photograph. So that's kind of what I'm working on this project.
Well, you've got it. Yeah, no, you got a case. That's a great way to colorize them, so you know what one was shot where and at what season as well. So it's a great. I love that. You know, that analog aspect of cataloging where you've been, so that you can pick it up quickly and say, okay, I'm going to go here today. And you're not going to be doubling up on the same shot. You're finding something new to look at, because I guess each one is different, because you're in the prairie, but every direction you're shooting, it's different. Like, it's not just everything is the same, and not everything is flat. Everybody assumes that everything is flat on the prairie, and it's this one is fairly flat, but you get down in that area, it does flatten out a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, it's a lovely piece. I love seeing. But I do love seeing that duplication of the truck going one way, truck going the other way, right? So there's a bit of a yin-yang thing going on here as well. So that those flashes of light are almost like that reflective light you get in a window. Like if you see an image reflecting in a window, it almost has that feeling to them, that you have those flashes of the washed out area, the double exposed area.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's always difficult to create movement in a still image. So, yeah.
You did it. Short of blurring the back of the truck like it's doing 50 miles an hour. No, don't do that. I love no, I love this fact that it's you're dealing with the raw film. I think it's so easy for people now with digitally just to go and shoot. You know, they can stop a bird flying in a second now. They just with a motorized thing, they just shoot a couple of hundred shots, and then they pick the one that it works out. Right. The old days, you had to plan that. Every one of those had to be planned, the exposure and everything. You know, to do that. So it's really a tough thing to plan. And I think that's where the old world photographer has somewhat of it over, say, some young ones that haven't learned those processes. I mean, they're learning the digital processes of what they can accomplish, but to really respect what was done in the day, the Ansel Adams of the world, you know, the Kirschers, that large format camera and controlling, and they did some darkroom work for sure. Yeah, you know, to control stuff. But where do you think photography is going in the direction of photography?
Well, boy, oh boy, what a change in my life to be a photographer, going from, you know, I learned photography on a 4x5 view camera, meaning one sheet of film with your black cloth over your head, and the image is 4 inches by 5 inches. And then you process that one sheet of film and overexpose it or underexpose it. So from that direction, what I went into, it was kind of a forced education and throwing away all the film cameras. I still have kept quite a few. And going digital is, you know, game changing. And certainly it's a challenge to be a professional photographer these days with, you know, everybody out there shooting, you know, with their digital and kind of, I call it that'll do photography. Oh, it's an image, you know, shot with a cell phone, but that'll take care of it. And maybe the lighting isn't as good on somebody's face for a portrait that's in a magazine. So it is a bit of a challenge, but that's fine. I'm getting to the point now where I'll continue on and maybe get back into my film and my experience of what I have worked on. But I don't know. It's the future of photography. It's, you know, it's just going to be a lot more video, a lot more shooting. You know, there's, you know, video cameras and still cameras, and, you know, a lot of people are shooting, and they're doing an excellent job as well too.
Yeah, you know, the iPhones and the cameras of their phones have come a long way, and the lenses and their pixel rate have gone up dramatically. And again, if you don't shoot on automatic, and they do offer you settings within, so, and you can tripod them as well. So, and again, it's hopefully the 6 inches behind that's taking that picture, if you learn how to operate the manual aspects of the device that you're working with.
Yeah.
And again, it's I mostly shoot with my phone because I got rid of my 35 mil. It was just a pain to have to deal with getting film, and then also the processing just wasn't as available as it used to be. You know, I don't, you know, like everybody else, what do you do with all the slides that you've shot? You know, you're scanning them into what format do you do them, and how the resolution, and what are you going to do with them later on anyway? So is CD any good anymore? You got to put them on flash drives. And so how are you archiving some of this stuff, your film and stuff like that after you use them? You got sleeve binders and stuff, or?
Oh, certainly, yes. I still have the original images that, say, I took my training in 1979, so I can pull out negatives from that. You can imagine how many negatives and images that I do have. Anything that digitally I stored back on CDs. I have my old computer that has a CD tray that I can search and find them through that old computer. And then, you know, these days now, in a large part, I am digitizing, you know, everything that what we see is I capture an image with my digital camera in the finest setting that it is, and then I can work with raw processing on sharpening and color correction of the image and everything. So yes, I do kind of file everything digitally.
Yeah.
On
So
hard drives.
So are you looking at trying to get some publishing done, like a book on this little truck and the idea, and where like I'm just saying, like I can see potential for a lot of this, but is there a market for that, right? The books are not being published as much as they used to be. There are a lot of self-published things out there now. Publishers are not willing to, especially on a first time that you've ever done anything, they rarely step up to the plate with you know, a small stimping to get you started, you know, if they get to publish. I mean, you got the Amazon books that are happening, but so is that something you're thinking about with you know, if you can shoot a few more of this truck and you can get some variance between them?
Yeah, I don't think really a book as per stands now, but you know, trying to get into larger prints and gallery images. That's really where I'd like to be. Is I'd love to, you know, see these images 4 feet by 5 feet, and you know, some of the other images like the grandfather's clock I already have printed up that large, but I'd like to just kind of get into a form of a gallery and get things printed up. Now, in the archives of my business, I do have a client that I photographed over 35 years, and I would like to produce a book from the history of all these images. They're again taking the old images on film and slide that I shot and redigitize it and sharpen it up and get it into kind of a book. And I think that it would be a sellable product, but that is in the future.
Yeah, we're all working there. Well, that's great. It was a great talking with you today on your, I guess, your business and your, I guess your the direction of trying to get into the fine art aspects of photography, taking your knowledge from commercial to, you know, you got to learn somewhere, right? You can't just all of a sudden just jump into something. And I think you've done an amazing job. That I've seen a lot of photographers they just kind of slide out. They've actually gone out almost out of business. They've stopped because the commercials stuff has dried up on them a little bit, and maybe they didn't invest like you did in digital to keep, because there's a huge investment. You know, the cameras, and I remember in the day the expensive in day one, and digital wasn't all that good in day one. But it's become a long way. Well, again, thank you very much. We really appreciate you being on our show today, and we'll just stay tuned and I guess go and look at Kevin's stuff on his site, and definitely contact Kevin Hogarth. Thank you again, Kevin.
Well, thanks for this opportunity, Paul.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. I told you we come in and out.
Yeah, thank you.
Like the wind.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
And all of Kevin's information, everybody, will be here. You can't see it now, but if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see all his information, how to contact him. And if you can't figure that out, get a hold of us at TOF and we'll get your information to Kevin.
Yeah. And just before we finish today, my compliments, Kevin, because there's so much texture, so much richness in your photography. And, you know, and we're all digital. We're all, you know, taking pictures left, right, and center. And I'd forgotten how much texture, how much depth there is in the old-fashioned films.
Yes.
uh,
And that really comes out through your work. So compliments for that.
Well, thank you. Yes.
So David, have you been to Penny Lane as well?
No, for my sins. I was a lifetime Beatle fan. You know, listening to it with my sister from 3 or 4 years on, old, but never been to Liverpool. So,
That's Steve. Have you been there in Texas?
I have not. I've been to Liverpool. We used to do a lot of business in London. So on the weekends, we had a guide. We were in the Mayfair district of London, and he would take us everywhere. So I have been to places in London I didn't even, or I should say in the United Kingdom, that I didn't even know existed. So yes, I've been very fortunate that I've seen everything. I've even been to Coventry and to the car museum where they show you the bombing from World War II. So, I've been very fortunate that I've been all over the, even though David's from there, God forbid he would tour his own country. So,
Yeah, and on that bombshell, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. All the complaints and travel tickets to get me back to Liverpool are greatly accepted. You can find all the links below to send me the tickets. But thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.